Bess Hawthorne, and I'm so excited you're joining me today. Today I have a very special guest. Her name is Meg Hickson. She is married with 3 kids, 2 girls and a boy. 1 is a high school senior and 2 are college aged. And she has been a teacher over the years, as well as being a part of the Air Force for over 20 years. And she's going to talk to us a lot about hospitality, specifically about a gourmet supper club that she and her husband were in when they were in the Air Force. Welcome, Meg.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm really excited to share today.
I am very excited for her to share because she has a very unique club that she was a part of. And it is a very fun idea that could be tweaked for each person's individual tastes, but it's just a really fun idea with a group of friends to do that with a group of friends. Meg, tell us a little bit more about yourself and your background in hospitality and how you learned along the way before we get into what you and your husband were a part of in the Air Force.
So fun to talk about hospitality, number one, because it's such a passion and you don't even really know it's a passion until you start talking about it. You're like, oh yeah, I have so many things. I could talk for an hour. I could talk for 2 hours. So I'm really excited
That's why you're here.
Yeah, I'm really excited to share. So I grew up in a small town in California, Richville, California. And let me tell you, I had so many people to learn from. All of these ladies in my church, I came from a small church, but every one of them were like masters. They were Martha Stewart before Martha Stewart was the thing.
That's incredible.
I can't even explain it.
They loved what they did, and it came through not just in them being able to teach you, but in skill. They wanted to master what they did every day in their homes and kitchens.
Yeah. No, I know. And they were all like magnificent cooks. I don't even know. I can't even explain. Maybe we all were just so hungry that it was just, so wonderful.
And I was amazing.
Yeah, and when you're a kid, maybe it's just so much more wonderful. But, we did have this kind of cultural background. It was a Swedish community. And I think maybe there was some of this, I want to share with you, the next generation. I think they saw the value of okay, this is my Swedish roots and I want to show you our food. And sometimes it was lutefisk or, herring, pickled herring with weird crackers. But we all it was so magical to me as a kid to, I don't know, just experience my grandmother's culture. And it wasn't just my grandma. It was all of the ladies in the church. They're all Swedish and they all made Swedish pancakes and they were so good at it.
And then wanted to pass it to the next generation.
Yeah.
Which is wonderful because I don't know any of that sort of thing, the Swedish side of cooking. But if I had a grandmother who was Swedish, I would want to know be introduced to that and be taught the recipes and have that passed on. So that's a wonderful gift for a grandma to give to her grandchildren.
Yeah, totally. And they had the recipe book and they'd kind of all the church ladies make the recipe book. It's funny how you think they're such great cooks and then you do look at the recipe book and you're like, oh yeah, lots of creamed mushroom soup.
Cream of.
Yeah.
Yes. The cream ofs. We recently were talking about that on a podcast in my grandmother's generation and in the generation you're talking about. The canned goods were so amazing because it finally saved them a little bit of time in the kitchen. Yeah. And it was a little bit before we started really reading ingredient labels and talking about nutrition. And when they first came out, they could have been terrible. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I feel like over the years, companies have tried to get cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. Yeah. And so it's possible that the products have gotten worse and worse and worse. I'm not sure. I don't know. They may have been terrible when they first came out. But yes, the grandmothers, mine was the same way. I mean, she always had the cream of. She never made her own. And so when I learned how to make your own, it's so super fast to make a substitute cream of mushroom or cream of anything. So super fast, so much better tasting. I was kind of shocked. I'm like, oh. That's all there is to it.
Yeah, it's not that big of a deal. Yeah. I know. I think my grandma she would do the white sauce and she would actually do the real thing, I think. But, just kind of in the recipe book, it was kind of a little bit more everyday kind of thing that they would just, instead of making a bechamel, I'll make, throw in the cream of celery or whatever it was. But, yeah. So anyway, rich heritage of, just hospitality and, the women would put a church dinner on and it would be it'd be like a missionary dinner, and they would take us to Tokyo or take us to wherever the missionary was from. And we'd have like the whole fellowship hall would be, oh, we are going to Zambia tonight, and everybody is dressed Zambian, and the tables were Zambian, and they had the food. Like, they would actually find recipes and like do the food. And I mean, it was so.
Was this pre-internet? I mean, how in the world did they come up with all of these ideas?
Yeah, I think they were just really creative ladies. Like, I'm going to do a shout out to Twyla Boltima. She just had a closet full of baskets, and I don't know, like those little carts that would, you'd just like you'd walking carts. I don't know. I mean, just crazy stuff that she'd have in her closet, and she would just pull out for.
She'd be able to create any event dinner from her baskets.
Yeah,
that's pretty great.
So super fun, and I think that's just that love of like giving, that love of sharing, and that love of making something really special. I think I caught at an early age because of that. And so I loved throwing parties even before I did this supper club. We kind of meandering, I guess I'm kind of going down the line here, but getting married, and my husband was in the Air Force. And so, you kind of, when you're in the Air Force, you kind of just have to bloom where you're planted. That's what my mom always said. You just bloom where you're planted, and you just jump in. And you get to know the people who are in those circles. Like, so a lot of times it was the Air Force wives and their kids, and you like celebrate life with them. So maybe it was like a baby shower. Like, I'm going to throw a baby shower. And I don't know why. I just let me throw. I love to throw. I want to do this,
and jumped right into hospitality.
Yeah, it was really fun.
Brand new people.
Yeah.
Which is wonderful.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times you are completely away from all family. Or friends, honestly. I mean, just a new move oftentimes puts you in amongst strangers. Yep. And that's so hard unless somebody is warm and friendly and welcomes you in.
Right. Yeah. No, it's absolutely true. It's like, it's strangers, but you have this common bond of both of our husbands are gone, in the Middle East, and we're home alone, and we need to have a Christmas party. And so you throw it. And I mean, you just kind of bond, I think in that, and through the hard things you bond. And so, so that was always fun. In the Air Force, I got to do a lot of, just being with, a lot of times it was just the ladies, and we did everything, bunco, and it was just fun. It was fun to open up your home and have people in, and, it's not like they're all Christians or they're all, they're all from different stages of life, and you just kind of, you're bunched together, but kind of made the most of it. That was the other thing. You could be in different random cities, and like you're all in El Paso together, and
your husbands are gone.
But you have a party.
Sitting on the couch crying. Yeah. You're having a get together.
Yeah. And that's what we did. Yeah.
That's pretty great.
Yeah.
Well, you obviously used the training you had and the inspiration you had from your childhood. You obviously used that in the Air Force. So tell me a little bit about the supper club that you joined and how you use that specifically there.
Yep. So it was very exclusive. It's really hilarious to say. It was very exclusive. But it's like strange. The military is a different place. Like, it's just a different, there's a lot of rules and a lot of unknown rules, kind of. What is it when you say it's like it's unknown rule, but it's like unspoken rule?
Unspoken rule.
Yeah, it's like an unspoken rule. You just don't do things, you do things. And so this supper club was an interesting thing. It was an officers only, where you had to be an officer or you could be retired. You had to, okay, let me just start from the beginning. So how did we get involved with it? So our neighbors, I think he was retired Army. And they invited us. They said, "Oh, do you want to just come to? We're hosting this supper club at our house, and we have an opening. You guys just come. We're doing a big thing." So they kind of let us in a little bit of it's a little like Harry Potter weird, right? You have to wear like certain things. Like Fred had to wear a jacket and a tie, and like it was kind of like church clothes. Like
it's a little more formal. Yeah, than just come over for dinner.
Yeah, and it's like don't come in your, I don't know. Texas
like jeans
A&M
and
t-shirt. Yeah. No, it was definitely, you had to dress up.
And your ball cap.
Yeah, no hats. No. Yeah, right. Absolutely. So we go and there's 12 couples, 24 people, and it's a sit down dinner. So it's multiple courses. So you have like your cocktail hour, you have your appetizer. Well, cocktail and appetizer pretty much was together. And then it depends. Sometimes it was like a salad course and then you'd have the main course. And then we would do like dessert and then after dinner drinks. Mm-hmm. So it was like a very long night.
Well, this reminds me of going to a real fancy restaurant.
Yeah.
And you would have to dress up. There are restaurants that have dress codes.
Yeah.
I mean, not that I'm frequenting them.
No, I know.
But, if you think about going to a restaurant in a big city that's super nice and you make reservations, there is a certain expectation of what you look like. Yeah. And you're going to be there for a while. It's going to involve some wine and multiple courses. And so this is done at a home, which is a really interesting idea.
Yeah. And I think that's an interesting concept. You could explore more as like, I guess, the history of hospitality is, it's like formal. Like, why do we have these rules? Like why do we have to dress up? You know what I'm saying? I think we have come so far from these rules. And of course, I'm going to get into that a little bit later, but kind of like this idea of we want hospitality to be exceptional. We want hospitality to be amazing, but we also want it to be something that's doable, like for a mom with kids or somebody who's just busy. Like you don't want every time you have people over to be this wonderful supper club experience with rules but like
dressing for dinner.
Yeah.
Do you remember back? I mean,
like Downton Abbey.
But it's more of like you think of in British literature, dressing for dinner. But you also look at the home that they were in.
Yeah.
They had servants.
Yeah.
And they were able to dress for dinner, and their maid was behind them helping do the necklace or comb the hair, and someone else was in the nursery dressing the children. So sometimes you do have to look at the context of all these formal people are gliding downstairs in their evening wear. Yep. Well, there was a whole posse of people behind them helping get there.
Absolutely.
In everyday life, I don't know about you, but I don't have anyone doing my hair or clasping my necklace.
No, I know. Yeah. So I guess what, explaining about the supper club, like on one hand, it's a really cool idea and it's a really cool thing to strive for. I think telling you about it, like maybe we just pull some principles like, okay, that's something like I can do, but I can do it so that it's not like, and maybe it's effortless. I can do that and it's elevated, but it's not something that's going to drag me down and I have to feel like I'm going to have a panic attack if I don't have X, Y, and Z perfect for my dinner. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So anyway, okay, back to the supper club. It was fun because, I'll just go, I guess, going through the rules.
Well, first of all, before you go into the rules, so you were first invited to the supper club as a guest, and then later you had to be a member, which, again, we are talking about something a little more formal, but this is a planned formality. And so if you're joining saying, I want to do this.
Right.
And explain to us a little bit about how it works, the format, because when you think about it, it seems a little overwhelming, but it's not always at one person's home. The responsibility is shared.
Right.
So tell me how you became a member and then a little bit about the setup.
The structure. Okay. So you had to be voted on. So all of the members, you'd go as a visitor and you would just like kind of observe. It was kind of known that you're a visitor. Like they're not necessarily going to vote on you the first time you come. So you might come a second time and then you would, at some point, you would say, yeah, we totally want to join because there's an opening, but there had to be an opening. It wasn't like we had multiple openings. It was just 12. By becoming a member, you had to commit though. Like you had to commit to like, okay, I'm going to be there every third
Which
week.
Is why being a guest a couple of times allows you to consider it, see what it looks like, see what would be involved, see if you and your husband could commit to that at your time in life. I mean, if you had a ton of tiny little kids, it may not work out.
Yeah.
But it might. If you could get babysitters, that sort of thing. You just kind of have to think it through.
Well, and you had to know that you were going to host at once a year. So the idea is that you, all 12 couples have 1 month a year that they host. And so you would decide that. They would decide that at the beginning of the year. So they'd sit down in like January or maybe December and say, okay, Bess, you have October. Meg, you have November. And I think there was one couple who always had December, which was kind of funny because they always did the Christmas party because they had like 25 Christmas trees. Not kidding, that they would decorate and light.
They were all in.
So it was kind of like, don't touch December.
Amazing.
Yeah.
We're going to their house. No one else can volunteer.
Unspoken rules. Anyway, you would commit to hosting. And hosting was interesting because it was like you planned the menu. So if I was going to go in November, I would bring, so you're hosting December or October. Mm-hmm. I would come to your house with a menu printed out, like nicely, like beautiful, right? Like, I mean, it could be colored. I think I went to Kinko's and got it printed and you would have like your menu that was, it's just styled so that you had like everything kind of mixed with each other. Mm-hmm. Like November, you might have like a fall theme. And so you'd have a fall cocktail, kind of maybe bourbon and kind of maple syrup or something.
Right.
But
you have all year to plan for your month. So you're able to really be creative and think through your menu and how it coordinates with the month or the theme you're going for.
Yes, absolutely. And then like even your appetizer would be something that's like earthy, fall, thinking fall, So you would plan the menu, you'd have your cocktail, your signature cocktail, which you would provide as a host. Then your appetizers, your main courses, your sides, and your dessert, people got to choose. So when I had my menu, we would all sit down. So all 12 ladies would sit down and I would like give out numbers. Like I would say, okay, everybody has a number. And then the person with number one, I mean, it was like random, like it was just out of a hat, right? And so Bess, if you drew 1, you got to choose what you wanted to make first off of my menu. And you would be like, oh, I'm going to take the stuffed mushrooms because they're the easiest and I can do it in the fast, or I've made stuffed mushrooms before and it's going to be great. I know how to do this. And so you get to choose. And then maybe I'm stuck with like the quail.
Number 12.
Number 12, the quail. Right. And I've never cooked quail. And so for me that month, this was pretty normal that the ladies would practice. Like I would go home and I would practice.
Well, you have a new recipe you can try out in your on your family.
Yeah. And they love that, by the way.
Yeah, they love it. They can be the taste testers.
They loved it. Yeah, that was actually a pretty normal thing, which was kind of fun because people cared. Like it wasn't like it was last minute kind of thing. I just went to HEB, HEB.
Right. Yes.
If you know, you know.
Is that Texas only? Because
I'm pretty sure.
Texarkana, which is Texas, Arkansas border.
Is there a HEB?
There is not an HEB.
Yeah.
But if you go further down, Dallas may have it. I don't know. But I know other places in Texas that I went through, I saw HEB, but I'm not actually very familiar with HEB.
Really? You didn't go to HEB?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, it wasn't ever in our town. Okay. I felt really put out when people would talk about how great it was.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's like the ultimate, Anyway, so HEB is a grocery store, by the way. It's just amazing. They have like fresh tortillas and everything. It's just amazing. Yeah. Like they make them in the store. And
really?
Yeah. It's like to die for.
Okay. That is a hot tip in case you're near one or traveling and want to pick up some food.
Yeah. Especially like San
Antonio?
Yes. They had like the machines that would make, and they would be fresh and it would smell good. And it was amazing.
Okay. Yeah. That is interesting.
Yeah. Fantastic. Yeah. HEB, ladies.
But this meal was not straight off of an HEB shelf.
Right. No, and I think that's what was so unique about it was like the ladies who were in it. Like I think that maybe that's why it is a little exclusive just because like take care in it. Like I think the ladies really loved it. And a lot of times these are ladies who, spent like their whole life in the military with their husbands, and they've done all the things I did. They've done the baby showers. They've done the bunco groups. They've done the dinners, where you have, like airmen over for Thanksgiving, and they're hosting a lot. And so I think they had a love of hosting, and you have to if you're going to do something like this.
Sure. Well, and similar to the ladies in your church, they wanted to be excellent in what they did. And so thinking through a menu that coordinates, coming up with really great recipes, sharing them with their friends, practicing them, and just making sure you can do it well or that you have the best recipe. All of that is a really fun idea.
Yeah.
Because oftentimes we do that ourselves in just our regular homes. If we think of something like, I really, really want to get better at whatever.
Yeah.
You know, I want to learn how to make focaccia. Yeah. And actually, it's funny you mentioned that because this past summer, I made focaccia multiple times and with multiple recipes in order to decide which one was my favorite. Oh. Yeah.
Well, that's so weird that I mentioned that.
I know.
Yeah.
I'll have to post just as a side note.
Yeah.
The lady who does peasant bread, Alexandra Cooks. I don't know if it's alexandracooks.com or what, but anyway, I can put a link. It's peasant bread. If you haven't made it, it's just the best, the easiest. I mean, it's just so great. And it is on the website and on the index. But her version of focaccia bread is also the best.
That's so good.
So you should try it.
Yeah, I need to try that.
I tried a different version. It's like, no, it's not as good as hers.
Oh, wow. And I would imagine the ingredients would
times.
like change as
well.
It
was a slightly different method.
Okay.
Something about a cold rise in the refrigerator versus a warm rise, or on counter at room temp rise, something like that. Anyway.
Yeah.
But it is something that you do in order to get better and perfect something. And then you have that recipe. Like once you have those recipes dialed in, then you can do it over and over for your family or for other guests.
Yeah.
Which, speaking of, you all shared recipes with each other. Did you have them printed up?
Yeah. No, I have them all. They're just in a box somewhere, and I needed to find them, and I didn't.
Oh, that's okay. But each person, once you, at the meeting, did you come?
Yes.
Or at the ladies' meeting, did you come with a booklet of recipes?
Mm-hmm.
So that when you drew your number, like let's say that I picked brownies or whatever I'm supposed to make. I think I was making the mushrooms.
Yeah. Yeah.
You hand me a booklet and inside is the recipe?
Yeah, you would get the booklet. Like I would print out 12 of my menu, and you would get the recipes. So you'd actually, that's why they didn't really like to have you email the menu. Like you wouldn't, that was kind of a rule too. Like you couldn't email the menu. You had to give a piece of paper. Then you would have all my recipes. Mm-hmm. And the thing too, like I think going back to like what you just did with the focaccia bread, okay, it's Bess's test kitchen. Because you had tried that multiple times. You're like, this is the best one. I tried them multiple times, and this one made it into my menu versus one I just found on the internet. That was pretty common with some of these ladies. Like they would not only test the ones that they had been given, but test them before they put them in their menu. Mm-hmm. Yeah, which was really cool. There's a gal in I loved her. She was Tracy. She was from Canada, and she kind of did like what my grandmother did. She did 2 Canadian dinners, which to me like blew my mind because I'd never ever heard of like Canadian recipes. Mm-hmm. Like I just don't. You know what I'm saying? I know they have recipes, but I don't know their heritage. Mm-hmm. But she knew, you know, she had something called beaver tail. I don't know if you've ever heard of that.
No.
But in Calgary, I'm pretty sure it's Calgary, I think. Anyway, it was like something that they made in their town. They're like it's like a pita bread, but it was like in the shape of a beaver tail. Oh. And it was like delicious.
Really?
Yeah, beaver tails. And so
I was thinking you were really talking about the real thing.
Yeah, no, I mean, sorry. Frightened. No. It's like a pita.
It was like acquire those. What do you have to do to source those for your
pretty
meal?
Insane. Yeah. Yeah, no.
So interesting that she would research, or maybe Canada was part of her heritage.
It was. Okay. Yeah, she was from Canada. So that was perfect. Like she knew beaver tail recipe. Like they had them, you know.
Each person was drawing on what they came from or what they knew or something in their heritage.
Yeah, so something like that. Like you would, I mean, she was the best person to throw a Canadian dinner because she knew all of the things that were unique that all of us Americans didn't know about. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. It was kind of cool in that sense. Trying to think of anybody else who had like a unique like kind of heritage that they would do. Oh, I think there are some people who did like maybe they were from St. Louis or something and they would try, you know, their barbecue or something like that would be interesting.
What were your menus? Do you remember?
Yeah. My menus, it kind of depended on like when I was going to host. So I hosted one in, I believe it was October, and I hosted one in May. So the one in October, I was definitely thinking much more harvest. I'm like, again, from a Richville, California, which is like a rice capital of the world. Not really, but we, you like to think, because we're a lot of rice farmers.
They grow a lot of rice there.
Yep. And my dad was a rice farmer. So I'm very familiar with like harvest. And I was laughing the other day because I saw literally 5 combines come down the road in Moscow. And I was like, it's harvest time.
And it was a familiar feeling.
Yeah, it was a familiar, like it's.
Wow.
So anyway, harvest. So I went through the harvest theme. I did. I just called it California Harvest. So I did pull like from like my heritage again, and I tried to kind of incorporate like ingredients that were maybe local to where I was in California. And so I had friends who had olive groves. I had friends who had walnut groves. I had friends who, grew rice, or I had friends who, I don't know, it was kind of very like provincial. And so that's kind of what I pulled from as inspiration. And it's like funny how you kind of get into the decor too. Yes. It's not just about like the menu, but it's decor too. And so it's fun.
Well, before you tell us about the decor, what rice is the rice?
Oh, yeah. This is important.
I know this is very
important to me. I know you know this. But listeners, do you know the right rice to buy?
Stay tuned.
So actually, Lumberg's rice is a little plug, and I'm not getting paid for this.
Not a paid sponsor.
But I'd love to. I'd love to get paid. Anyway.
In case Lundberg is out there listening.
I might tag them. I don't know. So growing up, my next door neighbors were the Lumbergs, and they were like one of the first farmers to go organic, like way back in like the 80s. And I don't know, way back. They were like one of the first, and they really like clung to that sustainable agriculture, and they would always be like scheming. So there was 4 brothers, and they were always kind of cutting edge. Like they were always like scheming the next way to like, how can we, make the fields more adaptable for like wildlife. And I mean, it was just like so cool to see, like you would see them and the smoke would be coming out of their ears because they had been thinking so much about rice and like how to make rice better. Right. And they ended up making rice cakes. I don't know if you've ever seen Lumberg's rice cakes, but they're amazing. It's actually it's more expensive. Like their rice is, it's like at Rosar's, and it's like, it literally is more expensive, but it's quality because like it's a family farm, and they've done every science experiment that has ever come, on the planet. Like I remember them doing like
trying to achieve
rice
excellence.
Yeah, trying to achieve excellence. So of course we had Lumberg's rice at my.
What's your favorite? Do you do jasmine
that's hard to say.
Basmati?
Basmati. Oh, you're doing good. You know your rice. This is amazing.
I've had them all.
Well, of course I love basmati, and you can smell basmati in the fields, by the way. Like I would ride my bike and I would be like, that's a basmati. Because you could smell, it smell like popcorn. It was amazing. So I love basmati. I love jasmine. But I really like their wild rice. Like they have they have a black japonica, which is kind of fun to throw into another rice. Like if you wanted to make it cool, like mix them together, and yeah, it's really cool. And then they do have I had somebody over this weekend, and I made they had Spanish rice, and it was like literally from a box, but it was like Lumberg. So it's going to be good. And everybody loved it because it was wonderful, but it was from a box.
Top quality.
Yeah. I mean, it was
honestly, in a box, it's still rice.
Yes.
And then they just add some
the
seasonings, and you're supposed to add the water. So it's not some horrible quality product, most likely. And
I just added some like roasted corn, and it was like, whoa, beautiful, wonderful. And that's a hot tip too. Color. Hey, right? Lumberg's. Anyway.
Lumberg's.
Yeah.
Okay. So now we know the rice you used in your
I
meal.
used Lumberg rice, and I kept it pretty like pure. And I think I said this, but when I did our ladies meeting to everybody choose like their recipe, I handed the gal who chose rice, I handed her a bag of Lumberg's basmati because I was like, please don't use any other rice.
Just regular great value.
And I didn't trust her to not go and get
Walmart special.
So anyway, I handed her the rice that she was supposed to use, and she was like, this is weird, but okay. I was like, trust me.
Trust me on this.
So
that's pretty great.
Yeah, and actually my neighbor Homer just died. He was the last of the four. It's like 2 weeks ago. And he was the last of the four Lumberg's brother. So
does the family still run the farm?
Yeah. Now the family has like it's next generation. Okay. So it's kind of cool to see them kind of take over, but sad to see like the old guard go. But yeah. So Homer, he was amazing.
That's fun.
Yeah. So anyway,
memories.
I keep getting sidetracked.
No, we talked about your rice.
Yep.
Back to your decorations. Okay, so you have your menu, you have the booklet that you've printed up for everyone with all the recipes, and it's a certain theme which helps you with your decorations.
Right.
So tell me a little bit about how you do your decorations when it's your turn to host.
Yeah.
Before we move forward, a big thank you to the sponsors for supporting today's episode. Are you searching for hands-on activities to help your kids explore the practical side of science? Look no further than your kitchen. Inquisicook blends food science and culinary arts into an engaging program that puts delicious food on the family table. Let Inquisicook do the teaching with lesson videos, reliable recipes, and assessment tools that put students on track for success. Their online platform is easy to navigate and optimized for mobile, so the learning experience can move from the classroom to the kitchen without a hitch. Inquisicook turns curious students into intuitive cooks, not just recipe followers. Say goodbye to the tyranny of the ingredients list and say hello to utilizing what's in season, what's on sale, or what's in the fridge. Visit inquisicook.com to view sample lessons, then check out the recipe gallery to see just how crave-worthy science can be. Today's culture shifts like sand, but New St. Andrews College is established on Christ, the immovable rock. The college is a premier institution that forges evangelical leaders who don't fear or hate the world. Guided by God's Word, equipped with the genius of classical liberal arts and God-honoring wisdom, with a faculty dedicated to academic rigor and to God's kingdom, New St. Andrews College offers an education that frees people. To find out more, visit nsa.edu.
You know that look of fall that's like not orange? It's like white pumpkins.
Yes.
Yeah, it's like everything's all one color.
Yes.
And I was getting inspiration from like olive branches, which I love. I love the olive branches for some reason. I don't know, but with like a white tablecloth. So I was envisioning like white tablecloths but still keeping the fall. So white pumpkins. And then I actually ordered olive branches from the internet and they came to my house and I put them up and it was beautiful. And so I had like an olive table. So I named the tables. Like you had an olive table, I had a walnut table. And so like my walnut table probably had walnuts. I can't, and then
so creative.
Yeah, it was fun. And then I can't remember one of them. I think I must have had a rice table. Probably
featuring a bag of Lindbergh's rice.
Right. Well, I think I had one of my friends send me the actual rice. Like I'm not sure. I can't remember if that was the time, but I've had a friend send me rice from like the cuttings. Mm-hmm. And so I had rice. It was really pretty. So yeah, that was fun. And it was very like clean and I don't know. It was more streamlined than like you'd think fall, like orange and all that kind of stuff. It was more white and it was really pretty. It was really pretty.
It just probably was a bit more elegant than the normal pumpkin orange color.
Yeah. It was like kind of almost a Mediterranean because if you think of like, it's almost on the same because there's like olive
color
and
palette.
Yeah, it's really pretty. So that's what I went. And I think can we link the menu?
Yeah.
So if you're
absolutely, because we always do recipes and favorite menus.
Yeah.
And so if you have one, like if you already have a coordinated menu, that is perfect. I will definitely post this menu on comeoverfordinner.com so that everybody can see your coordinated menu and recreate these recipes.
Yeah, it's kind of fun. And we did like an olive oil cake, which was kind of fun.
That's a great idea.
Yeah. Incorporating the olives and keeping it kind of like California feel, earthy.
Yes.
Not like too super sweet, but I guess that's kind of the feel. It's more terracotta feeling. I don't know.
Oh, that sounds delicious.
Yeah.
So you did that in the fall. What did you do in the spring?
Okay. Yeah. The spring, it was May. So all I could think of, and okay, so my husband's from the South. So I have this like California influence, but then from him, I have this whole Southern and my mother-in-law, very Southern. And so I have this like Southern pull towards all things Southern. I really love. When I met him, I was like diving into Southern, like, what?
Fried chicken, fried okra, mashed potatoes.
I had never, like, I didn't know anything about Southern hospitality or Southern anything. And so I was like, smocked dresses. Yes, please. I love this. So anyway, so I did a Southern, but it was Derby. It was a Derby party.
How fun.
So, with the big hats and the horses and the loving cups and the roses. And so then I had to kind of pull from the Southern feel of like a menu. Like we did grits. We did shrimp grits, which was kind of fun. And I think I did like a pork tenderloin, and we did sliders for the appetizer. I think we did like a really cool slider. And of course we had the cocktail was mint juleps,
Oh,
yes.
so fun.
Yes.
That
so
sounds
fun.
like
And
a
I had
great
to
menu as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I had to restrain. I cannot buy 24, what are those like cups, those silver cups, those, what I'm talking about?
Yes. Yes.
Those mint julep cups. I was like, I really want to buy those. And I was like, yeah, I don't need to buy all of those.
You'll use them one time. So you don't want to spend money for a one-time use no one's ever going to use again. Unless they have a party that involves mint juleps.
Yeah, and then I'd be bound to doing a Derby party every year.
Right.
Because I have to use the cups.
If you saved the cups for that, then you could.
I think I bought like 2 and put flowers in them. So there was that.
Yeah.
So
back to your other menu. What was your main dish there?
Oh, we did oh my goodness, what was that? It's awesome. It's in a recipe book that I found. And it's like Basque. It was a Basque chicken. And it incorporated the olives, which I really liked. And then artichoke hearts, which is very California too.
Sounds delicious.
It's really to die for. It's actually one of my favorite recipes ever. So
you still make it all the time.
I do make it. Yeah. I actually had one of my friends just recently. It's actually somebody who was in the Supper Club texted me one time. It's like ran out of the blue. Can you give me that chicken recipe?
Right.
Yeah. It's chicken thighs, which is some people don't really like chicken thighs. So I think one person made it with chicken breast and it was just fine. It was good. But it's not like a soup. It's like this. It's almost like a stew, but it's chicken and like think of olives. And it was Mediterranean, but California. So it's kind of interesting. Really loved it. So if you want to try that out,
we're going to have to get all of these recipes, especially if it's one of your absolute favorites and you make it all the time still.
Yeah, it's so good. Yeah. Actually, I need to pull that one back out. It's like, you have it on repeat for a while and then you're like, oh, I forgot about it. And I need to pull it back out. Yeah.
Well, when you were making these menus, were there any shortcuts or time savers that you would use in order to speed the process along? Or did you just plan ahead of time? Like I'm going to set aside the day or the day before to cook.
Yeah. Good question. I think like when I was planning the menus, we knew a whole year ahead of time. So I literally like a lot of times like Fred would be gone, like my husband would be gone, like and like deployed somewhere. He was actually deployed for both of the parties that I had, which was such a bummer. So like if he was gone, like I kind of would just come home from school with the kids because I was teaching and like I just kind of dream about it and think about it. So I thought about him for a really long time and I did it over time, like researching different things and thinking about decor and, like doing it kind of in increments. Mm-hmm. So I think that's kind of a whole different scenario because like when you have people over now, like, oh, I'm going to have you over on Friday night. Oh my gosh, what am I going to make?
So you do it all at once.
Yeah. So it's not necessarily the same, like, cause you have so much time to like leeway to think about it. Unless like I'm not one of those people that leave things to last minute. So I love that aspect of it.
And then if you're the hostess, you're not actually cooking the food. Nope. You're providing drinks in the home and the decor and the tables. Mm-hmm. What were the rules? You mentioned some of them, but if you were going to be a part of this supper club, what were some of the rules that you had to agree to? Well, for one, you had to be voted on. Yep. That seems very stressful. Yep. If somebody doesn't like you, you're out.
I don't like your laugh.
Good impression. So they vote to incorporate you as a member, and max is 12 couples. So you're in, let's say. Hypothetically, you are voted in. What rules have you agreed to?
Yeah. So really random, no paper plates. Like not even for dessert. Like not even for like cocktail hour. Like no paper plates, no plastic cups. Like when you think of having a lot of people over, you're thinking paper plates, plastic cups. So that was like a complete no.
But this is just meant to be a formal dinner.
Yeah. And I think that kind of ruffled some feathers. Like, oh, I can't have, like you have to be able to make sure your dishwasher is empty by the end of the night so that you can just smush them in and then just be okay with maybe having the glassware out for the next morning. So yeah, it was no paper plates. Another thing, it was funny because it was in Texas. I mean, Texas is so big on their football and their basketball and their every sport, right? And so it was a sacrifice to not turn on any kind of game. Texas A&M and the Longhorns are playing and, that was a rule. Like we couldn't have any sporting events on.
And so TV in the background.
No TV in the background, which was, I mean, a lot of people now like aren't doing that, but there is like, if there's a game on that's like pretty amazing, like the national championship, so it'd be really hard not to.
Right. Well, thankfully, in today's day and age, you can record it at home and just don't listen to the radio, don't accept phone calls or whatever where somebody might give it away, but you can race home and
you can watch it. Yeah, just not watch, not listen to any or look at your phone or anything like that. Yeah. So anyway, that was one thing, and that was always kind of a little bit of a joke because we'd all kind of laugh, and the guys would. Somehow they would have it on, they would know like, oh, they scored.
Somebody went to the bathroom and looked at their phone.
Yeah, exactly. So that was always kind of a little bit of a joke, but we always, I think we all kept to it. I don't remember anybody ever really having it on. So that was a rule. I mean, just committing to like being there was a rule. I mean, of course you're going to have people who are not going to be there, or whatever. Oh, another rule was just like the seating. You had to, like, you couldn't just have all the ladies at one table and all the men at another table. You had to have like, it was really weird because you had to have like girl, boy, like around the table. Girl, boy, that's so dark. Like ladies and gentlemen, like seated next to each other. And you typically wouldn't even have your spouse at the same table. So it kind of it did force conversation because you had to talk to like the whole table. You didn't always necessarily talk to like the dude right next to you, but you would everybody would be chatting within the table, which was really nice because you would have these different conversations that weren't like lady specific or man specific.
You're not talking about childbirth.
Yeah. Oh my
the game.
Yeah. I mean, maybe like if you're cocktail hour, most of the ladies would hang out and the guys would hang out. And that was kind of the time.
But at dinner time, you had to break it up and do something that was a conversation that included everyone.
Yeah. So that made it interesting, I think. That we had just, I don't know. It was neat.
Yeah, just a variety of conversations that you wouldn't normally have had.
Yeah, people were from all walks of life. Like they were military. They had a military connection, but they were probably retired or whatever. And like these people have lived everywhere in the world. A lot of times military people have lived in, I don't know, Japan and so it was fun to hear. Like a lot of times those conversations would be around like, well, where have you lived? Tell us about the Philippines, or tell us about,
and all of that's going to be their best stories.
Yeah.
You're going to hear stories from what happened when they were in the Philippines, or Japan, or wherever.
Yeah, it was really neat.
Would be a neat way to get to know people.
Yeah, it was really cool. Oh yeah, and this was funny because we had to have like, it was kind of a rule, but not a rule, unsaid rule. But we had to have like a bar, like we had to have cocktail drinks, at the beginning, and then the after dinner drinks. But we had a traveling bar. Oh. So like if I bought extra like bourbon or something, that would be put in a box. I mean, you could donate it, but you didn't have to. But a lot of times we would just say, okay, I have extra bourbon. I'm just going to send it to the next house.
The next month.
For the next month. So you would go drop off, whatever you wanted to put into, and you could just donate to it too. Like somebody like, oh, I just bought an extra bottle of X, Y, and Z. I don't know all the things, but we had a traveling bar.
Yeah. Because that is a big expense. Of course, you only have to do it once a year, but it is a big expense. Yep. So if you did already have a head start of what you're going to serve, that's nice.
Well, and too, like people can donate stuff that they actually like to drink. Because like I have no clue about which tequila is good or what's, And so if they know like, we're coming all the time, I like to drink this, and they just donate it to us, so they would drink that every time. So it kind of ensured that they, whatever. I mean, that sounds weird, but it was kind of cool. Yeah. So that was kind of an unspoken rule. I mean, and that was kind of cute about the community, is that y'all kind of helped each other. I didn't have all of the round tables that sat 8, So I remember having to go over to different ladies' house and pick up the tables or pick up the tablecloths and pick up, like, I remember one of the ladies, she was kind of like the head of it, but she had like her garage, she had like these hanging bags and they had like all colors of tablecloths. Like, what colors do you want? Do you want white or pink or red or blue? Like, she had them all hanging.
Wow.
And they're all pressed and everything. So I would just go and like, oh, Sue, what kind of, what
would fit my decor?
Yeah. So I would just get her tablecloths and I would go over to, the other place and they'd have the tables and the chairs. And so there was a community in which we like shared and helped each other with like all the supplies and stuff like that. Cause not everybody's going to have the tables and chairs and all of that kind of stuff. So that was kind of fun. It was not a rule, but it was definitely one of the things that you did.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Oh, that's so fun.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other rules? I know you touched on the dress.
Yeah.
You had to be dressed up or maybe sometimes in theme.
Yep.
If,
so they all wear like
Derby
the
Day,
hat.
then they would come up with a hat.
Mm-hmm.
Was there any other particular rules regarding dress?
I guess it was just like the theme, like a lot of times the theme. If you weren't going to make it, it would be like, I think it was kind of unspoken too, like, oh, just find somebody who wants to be a guest, like, so because we have.
If your husband couldn't be there because he's deployed,
bring somebody.
Would you bring or invite somebody to your home to?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Help you run the event, or it's not necessary.
Yeah.
Or if you were going to be out of town, then
like
you invite a couple.
Yeah,
or did you let other people invite a couple. How does that work?
Yeah, I think if you are the host, you could invite a couple. Like we'd have. Oh, that was the thing. Like if you were the host, you could invite like a couple or something like that. That kind of thing. But they also had like people who had been like there are people who like. They say like there was like a little phrase they always said, once in Gourmet, always in Gourmet. So if you had like if I went back and I was there during a week that they were having Gourmet, like I could visit it and they would have to make room for me because like I was in Gourmet.
Always part of the club.
Speaking of, my name's on the plaque. Like we had a plaque.
Of course you did.
Yeah. So see my name was on the plaque.
Very military.
Yeah, very military. And that was the thing. Not only did the bar travel, but the plaque traveled.
Oh.
Like you would have to go pick up the plaque.
Plaque and the bar.
And you would display. Yeah, it's very military. Yeah.
That's so great.
You would have to display the plaque. And so
it listed all the names of all the people that had been a part of it since its beginning.
Yeah, and like 1927 or something. Like it's that old. It was that old. I can't remember how old it was. Maybe not the 20s. It was like the 50s probably.
Wow.
It was old. It was like an old group. Yeah, and I guess that's really where I guess like we were talking about like, like in the days past, like dinner was so formal.
The person who started it was probably their normal life was probably not too far away from these rules.
Yeah.
Not that you put on a formal dinner every night, but just looking nice for dinner, being a little more dressed, maybe going and putting your lipstick on first. And it was more that way. And we have become a very casual culture.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like the Officers Club, like if you think about that kind of whole like scene, it was very formal and it was very like elite and very, but now it's like a total, it's a whole different story.
Is it? I don't know.
Oh yeah. The Officers Club is not what it used to be.
Is there any formality left to it?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I can't say that like totally, but
it just,
not like how it was. Like it was like very special. So yeah. So, but I think like, taking principles from the rules and taking things that were really amazing about these dinners and like putting them to like how I host now.
This would be a really fun idea to do with a group of friends.
Oh, yeah.
And maybe make the rules your own, tweak it a little bit if you wanted to, but just having a set time.
Yeah.
Because it is hard to get together unless you're intentional about it. But having a set time once a month. Yep. And it does remind me a little bit of the progressive dinner from back in the day. But what's easier about this is only one person's house has to be ready. The progressive dinner, you go and you have your appetizer and drinks at one person's house. Then you all get in the car and you go to the next house and have the salad course and on and on. But that was tough because at least 4 different people had to have their homes just all ready and set up and plates out and do the dishes. And so to have it at one home, but yet it rotated every month is just a really fun idea.
But I think the menu thing is really unique, like where I'm curating this menu and all of the foods go together.
And it's a similar idea to sharing your favorite recipes with your friends.
Yep.
Which we all love. We all love to get new recipes from friends, especially the ones that they're saying, this is my favorite. This is my new favorite. You should try this. And then you get to keep them forever. Yeah. You have these booklets that you have forever. Hidden in a box, apparently, but you need to find these so that we can have access to these recipes. I would love to see them.
I thought of one more rule, and I couldn't remember it, but you had to have a spoon. And like if you had a side or you had some kind of, like you had to have serving utensils. Like you'd kind of get like the little stink eye if you didn't have the utensils to serve what you brought. Like if you didn't have the tongs to pick up the stuffed mushrooms, like you.
So if you're bringing the dish, you bring the utensil to serve it with from outside the home that's hosting.
So that's probably why I don't have very many of my serving things.
Because you left them behind. I thought you were saying that the hostess needed to have all the serving utensils ready to go.
Yeah.
No, everybody's bringing their own.
Yeah.
That would be difficult to have that many.
I know.
I guess.
Yeah. You had to like kind of watch it and
Make sure your dish and your utensil came home with you at the end of the night.
Yeah.
Was anything else sent home at the end of the night with guests?
Sometimes we would like divvy up like the leftovers and like, oh, you can take some, like we'll just get a Ziploc bag. I know, and like in Spanish they have like a word for that, but I don't know what it is. But it's an amazing world.
It's better than the American doggy bag.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's like a really cool word, and I wish I knew it. Yeah, but no, it's like the doggy bags. Like everybody would take. Sometimes people would take home the doggy bags.
When I was a kid, that's all you ever said. Can I have a doggy bag?
Oh yeah.
And when people started, someone I guess just was a little too hoity-toity to say that, and so it started becoming. I would hear in restaurants people saying, "Can I have a to-go box?"
Yep. Can I have a box?
Like, what's a to-go box?
Yeah.
That's the same thing as a doggy bag. But then I eventually started
kind of forgot about that word.
Forgot about like, okay, doggy I don't say the doggy bag anymore as if you're taking it home to your dog,
Yeah.
Back in the day. Like say you had a steak.
That's what we called it.
Maybe that's for real.
A doggy bag.
But if it's, rice pilaf or
rice pilaf. Yeah.
If it's rice pilaf and, asparagus, you're not taking it home to your dog.
You're taking it home to your kids who are hungry.
Yes.
They're waiting.
They're waiting for the leftovers.
They need the scraps. Yeah.
So when you have people coming into your home, you are preparing for your month.
Yep.
What is your best prep tip? How did you prepare? I know you said you planned very much in advance for this type of event.
Yeah.
But do you have any specific tips?
Well, I would say have the right equipment. Like have all of the things that you like just on hand, like serving trays or pitchers or, like the glass, like little water jug things that just makes things easier. Like if you don't have to go hunting for all of those kinds of things and like, okay, when I do a veggie tray, I'm always going to pull out like one of my white trays and it's just going to go boom. And I have these trays and I have this tray and I can put the chicken on this tray and I think if you just have the right equipment, that does make things just easier. I don't know.
What would you say the right equipment is? I mean, we're going to get into top recommended items soon, but do you have any specific things that you would say for a bigger dinner party? These are the things you have to have on hand.
Yeah. I mean, if you're doing like the fancy, you always have to have the wine glass and the glassware is kind of interesting. That's hard to kind of keep. I would say like beverages, like thinking about the idea of like elevating your hospitality to kind of a fun level, but not too much. Like your beverage station, make that look really cool. It's an easy way to make things look really pretty. And like a bottle of wine looks really pretty next to a chilled pitcher of water with ice and lemon or ice and cucumber or, I think like having that like little beverage station looks just really great. And people get really excited about beverage stations.
I forget about that for water.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've heard it called spa water.
Spa water.
Where you have fruit or cucumber.
I know.
You can mix and match whatever
you can do anything.
Want.
Yeah.
And it gives it just a hint of fruit flavor.
Yeah.
It's really not much, but it's enough to make it a little bit different than regular water.
Then it's just like, oh, here's some water. And then you don't have to have like a million different beverages that are like fancy. You can just have like the spa water.
Mm-hmm. Oh, kids are going to go and drink that over and over, I bet.
I know. And it keeps everybody hydrated. So there's a plus.
Yes. Yes. What is your best advice for making people feel welcome when they came into your home?
Well, I think an environment is really amazing when like it's lighted really pretty. Like it's lighting is, it kind of changes the mood. So I love to do like candles. I love to have, I remember one at the Canadian dinner, especially outdoors. She had it outdoors and she had those big, pretty cafe lighting, like, on the string, like in her trees, and it was above the table. And it was just like magical. Like I walked in, she had candles and she had the lighting. And I think like I try to recreate that a little bit. Like I turn off all the headlights except for like the hallway, and that's really sparkly. And then in your kitchen, like put the like cute lights on, and just like have things like muted but like sparkly. And I think I always think that lighting really can change a mood.
Mm-hmm. Especially at dinner time.
Yeah.
It's a dinner party. You can have it be a little more muted.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's a really weird one, but I think that's a really neat way of changing the atmosphere.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What are your must-have kitchen items?
Oh, wow.
We've talked about
That's
some
hard.
of them,
yeah.
But do you have any specific ones that you would say, okay, you really have to have this in your kitchen?
How many do I get?
You can have as many as you want. Go for it.
Well, there's like three things come to mind. Like one is the grill. I really love the grill. Like I love to grill everything. Like if I can put it on the grill, that's one less dish I have to do, and it tastes good, and it's just, I don't know.
Do you have a favorite? Charcoal, gas? What do you do?
We do gas. Yeah. I mean, we've had
easy.
Yeah. And I've learned how to grill. So that makes it a lot easier because like I know it's like, oh, wait for the husband. But then sometimes I act like I don't know how to grill so that he does do some of that.
If he's there and you really want him to.
Yeah, like I don't know how to do that.
Grill this chicken.
Did you do that? And he's really great. He does. And that is actually one way I can get him to help too. Like if he's not going to cook and be in the kitchen, like, hey, could you grill? Yeah, it is nice. And he'll take care of the grill, which is really nice. But I can do it too. So, but that really does help. And then I do like my Le Creuset pan. That's like the big, thick metal, cast iron thing. And you can put it in the oven. And like if you put rice in it, then you can put it in the oven. It'll stay warm. And it does look okay if you have to put it on a buffet. It's not terrible.
No.
And it's nice for taking to places. Like if you're going to go somewhere, you can put the lid on and just cover it. And then I thought of one more that it's like, it's kind of a necessity like that. I don't know, like I use it a lot. Just a sheet pan. Like a cookie sheet, but it's like, a bigger kind of sheet pan. Like I use that all the time. It's like super important because you can do everything on the sheet pan.
Where do you buy yours?
I think I got mine at Target.
I think I found a set of 2 at Costco, and they change their stuff all the time, but it was USA pans, made in the USA.
Yeah.
They're amazing.
Yeah.
They're
really good.
amazing.
Yeah. No, I know. I think that's what it is.
I use them all the time. And I thought the ones I had bought a couple at, I don't know, TJ Maxx or something. And I thought that they were big.
Yeah.
They were not big compared to these. And I know there's titles for all. Mine may have been a quarter sheet pan, and then I got a half sheet pan. I can't remember like what the exact titles were. But when I got these, they almost fill up the entire rack in the oven.
Yeah.
They're amazing. You
I know.
can fit
Changes
so
your
much
life.
more food on there than before.
Yeah.
Yes, it is life-changing.
It is.
Everybody needs them.
They do.
Invest in the tools of the trade, ladies.
Yeah, that's right. No, I know. So that's a super helpful one, I think, for me. Yeah.
What about in your current day-to-day life? How do you do extra tables and chairs? Do you stock tables and chairs? Like, how you were saying in your...
Oh, yeah, I didn't have tables and chairs.
Texas, you didn't have tables and chairs. You were borrowing tables and chairs. But in your current life, do you have a store?
Yeah, good question.
Storehouse of tables and chairs?
Yeah, I know, right? That was kind of the thing when we moved out here. Like I wanted... it's like I have a dining table, but it doesn't extend. Mm-hmm. So I've had to kind of figure out how to have like more people than just what my table has. So I've gotten like the plastic Costco tables. I have a couple of those. They're not all perfect. I think I could get a bigger one. I have rented them. I have rented them at the Han Rentals down the road and just put them in the back of the truck and taken them. Because I've done some really fun like farm parties at our farm and done like where I have multiple tables, and I've rented chairs too. And that's been kind of special. It's been fun to do that. I like doing that. And the tables just like, they look really clean, and you put tablecloths. I got the tablecloths from Amazon, and I do store up on those. That's a really cheap way to find really cool tablecloths that are nice. Yeah, so I don't quite have Sue's store of her.
But you're creating your own
yeah,
store.
I'm storing, yeah. And so you just pull out the same tablecloths. So, and then I just recently, I got kind of tired of renting because it is expensive. I mean, it gets to be kind of expensive if you start to have a lot of people over a lot of time. So I just started actually purchasing, at the rental place, they have these resin chairs, and they're white, and they look like wedding chairs, but they're like really cool, and they have like the padding and everything. And I really was loving them. I was trying not to covet them, but
when you had to return them, you were sad.
I was like,
a tear
really
might have
want these.
dripped down.
Yeah. So anyway, I looked up resin chairs on Amazon, and they have black ones, and so it's kind of nice because they don't look so wedding. Like I know some of the parties I've had that have white chairs, like it just like looks like you're driving up and you're like, wow, there's a wedding here. Mm-hmm. But black chairs, they don't look so wedding.
Like a formal dinner maybe.
Yeah. Yeah. And they look really sharp. And then I just recently got some dining chairs that are black. And so they kind of, like if I had to put the dining chairs and the black chairs together,
it would coordinate.
So I'm not like, oh, black and then white. So I don't know, this is dorky things that I think about, but I
know whose closet to go and raid from now on.
I know, right? Well, I'm not quite there.
Knock on your door.
I'm not to the suit.
I'd like to see your store of tablecloths.
I know, right?
That's pretty great.
I'm telling you, I love Amazon.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, you've mentioned multiple. Do you have any more?
Yeah. I mean, if you are really interested in like, kitchen equipment, and you're wanting to host a whole bunch, and you're like kind of seeing that you're having like multiple, like maybe you have a PDG at your house, or maybe it's just like Sabbath dinner, or maybe it's Sunday brunch.
Which PDG, by the way, is Parish Discipleship Group. It's like a Bible study.
Yeah. Or just fellowship dinner or whatever. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I like to do Sunday brunch. But if you're seeing that you're having lots of kids over, like a lot of times we have college kids over, and we have like a huge, like sometimes it's last minute, and like, wow, I didn't know.
But some extra tables.
Yeah.
And chairs.
Yeah. The other day I was watching on Canon Plus, there was Rebecca Merkel she does an equipment. It's like the name of it. It was it's like the soup/dashery. Soup/dashery.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I think it's her video course on the Soup Night Slapdashery cookbook that she has.
Yes.
A practical guide to big hospitality.
Yeah. And it's kind of fun because she goes through like kind of lists of equipment that is like she uses for these dinners. And
that's very helpful.
It is helpful. It was really helpful. And I really appreciate, she has much more of like a fun style than I'm like very white, and I got to get out of it. But I was like appreciative because she had like
color.
Yeah, she had like pretty trays that were like turquoise, and I was like, wow, turquoise
and patterns.
Yeah.
Yes.
Florals and patterns and turquoise and red and really pretty so that was really fun. So if you're interested in looking at more of like a substantial list of equipment for hospitality, like definitely check that out because it's really cool.
Especially if you're talking about large groups.
Yeah. Yeah. And once you have college kids or high school kids, like all of a sudden you have swarms.
Mm-hmm. And you have to make a massive amount of food.
Yeah. Quickly. So if you have the equipment, you just pull it out and go, oh yeah, I got this. I got this. I got the trays.
Well, and her cookbook talks about, I know it talks about it, but there are two different sections. One for the home use, kind of a single family amount.
Yes.
And then a large batch quantity amount. And one of the things she's talked about that you have to learn to recognize is that you don't always times everything up. Like, for instance, if you have 2 tablespoons of oil to cook 1 onion. Well, now if you need 12 onions, you don't then just start plugging.
Yeah, I know.
24 tablespoons. No. You do enough to saute it, but you may not have to put quite as much.
Yeah, just some intuition there.
Some intuition, yes. Some of the things you don't raise up. So that's interesting. And I don't know if she talks about that in her video course, but I know it's mentioned in the cookbook. And it's kind of a fun thing to learn. It was an aha moment for me when I don't know if I was hearing that from her. I don't know. Anyway, There was this one soup that I made one time. It was the Pioneer Woman, and it is the most delicious soup ever. But she had you not just saute in a little bit of oil, but you added some butter too.
Oh, yeah.
To do the onion and a few other things. Well, I multiplied times 4 or 5. Yeah. Well, I did the same thing with the butter.
Oh, no.
Not to say it was bad, but at the end, when you have the pot of soup out, it just kind of
congealed.
It had this oily film on the top, and it was just real. It just
tasted good.
It tasted wonderful. But I was like, what is wrong? Why does it look like that? It doesn't normally look like that when I cook it for my family.
It's too funny.
It was because I'd put a whole stick of butter in a pot of soup, a giant pot of soup, plus some oil. It was way too much. I needed just a few tablespoons.
Yeah, that's pretty funny.
So that's
I love
a funny side note.
Butter soup.
Butter soup.
That's funny.
Do you have a story from all of your years of hospitality?
Oh, yeah, this is a good one. This is, I think sometimes you have to overthink a little because they were doing, you're getting the recipe, you have to make sure the recipe and you have the ingredients, and then you have to, if you practice it and you practice it again. And this month, I don't really know. I was teaching full time at the time I was doing this. And so I was a little scatterbrained and things were
tough.
Big. Yeah. And so I don't know what happened, but I got my, whatever it was that I made. It's like world peas or something. I don't know.
World peas?
Yeah, we did have that one time, but I don't think it was world. It was more substantial. It was like a chicken. It must have been, I know it was like a main course because it was like a little bit, a lot to make. A little bit of a lot to make. That's funny. So anyway, I got that all ready. I got myself dressed up. Fred was deployed, so I was by myself. And the kids were staying home and whatever. But I was going, and I hadn't been to this part of base, so it was kind of random. And I show up to their house, and I park, and I looked at their house, and it was like dark. Like the whole house was dark. There was no lights on. There were no cars there. It was pretty apparent there was nobody there. And I was like, what is happening right now? Yeah, what is wrong here?
Am I at the wrong house?
Yeah. And I came a week early. Yeah, I was there a week early. Yeah, I didn't go to the door, needless to say.
How did you figure this out?
Yeah, because there's nobody there.
So you just went home and rechecked your calendar?
I literally I think I must have had my phone and checked the email just to make sure that I knew the date, and I realized I was a week early.
So you were just really on time.
It was,
So you turned around, took your dish back to your house.
Yeah, my kids were just ecstatic.
They were thrilled.
They had the dinner. Yeah, yeah. I did say I practiced that one. Yeah.
Right.
So,
and a week later, you made it again.
Yeah, I made it again. Yeah, but he was like a full bird colonel, and I was not going to go knock on the door and be like, oh, it's next
Your
week.
Porch light's not on.
Yeah, I know. Hi, I'm here. Yeah.
I'm here.
Yeah, it was kind of embarrassing, but nobody knew. But of course, the next week, I definitely was like, yeah, I came last week with my dinner.
You confessed.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, it's pretty funny. So at that point, I could laugh about it. Then I was there. I couldn't really laugh.
Not when you'd spent that much time.
No.
Because to go to an event like that, you're spending a lot
It's
of
your
time.
Saturday, to get that.
To do the meal and to get dressed and look nice.
Yeah, and to find all of the ingredients, I feel like. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. It was pretty fun.
Thank you so much, Meg, for coming on and sharing all of your hot tips and recipes and telling us all about this really fun supper club. It's a fabulous idea.
Yeah, try it. It will be fun.
Yeah, if you do, let us know.
Yeah.
Until next time, bye for now. Could you take a minute to scroll down to the bottom of the podcast page on the app you have open? After the list of my latest episodes, you'll see a place to leave a star rating and a place to write a review. If you could quickly tell why you like the podcast, this will let new listeners know what the podcast is about and why they would enjoy listening to. Also, please share the podcast with your friends. If you click the 3 horizontal dots on this page, there's a share button. Thank you for your time.